schools, but oh, thank you so much. Thank you, to my colleagues for recording as well. The main rule is if you could please indicate your name and organization or school in your little box, that would be great. And also if you can share your camera additionally, that would be great because it's so hard to present to a bunch of black boxes. I know. So please do that. I've also got the objectives in the chat. Let me put them in one more time, because later on, as we're closing up, I'm gonna put in a survey, a poll for you guys to let us know if we met our objectives, right? So they're pretty loose today. We're just here to learn from our colleague at HESC, Michael Turner, and he's gonna tell us the things, and then we're gonna ask him questions. It's gonna be really great today. And without further ado, I just want to get going, if that's okay. Any questions? I think I'm gonna turn off the music because that would be weird. Let me do that. All right, Michael Turner, thank you so much for coming in. I know you have such a busy day today, and a meeting right before this and all that. Are you able to share your screen, or do you want me to do it?
It says someone else is sharing right now.
Let me see. Okay. I'm allowing you to share.
Okay.
Did it let you?
Yep. Yes, I can share now.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you so much.
All right, sure. So I can just get started from here then, Sandy?
Absolutely. Let's just get going.
All right, sounds good. So hello, everyone. I'm going to put this in slideshow mode. Hopefully that looks clean on your side. Is it showing presenter mode or slideshow mode on your?
It's showing presenter mode.
All right. How about now?
Still. Oh, now. Perfect.
All right, great. I'm going to bring you through a presentation Sandy asked me to provide to you today with some updates, but also an overview on some of our programs that you may or may not be aware of. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. I'm always happy to be a resource to to New Visions and to the community here at large. So one place I definitely want to recommend before we get into some details is signing up for our school counselor newsletter. If you go to the HESC website and you click under the academic partners drop down, there's a school counselors area, and the first thing we bring you to is this page, which asks, informs you about signing up for our school counselor newsletter. We are doing a school counselor program at the end of this month. I believe it's going to be on the 30th, but don't quote me on that date. We'll announce it if you sign up for the newsletter. The program we usually do every year is this kind of school counselor update where we have different folks talking about things that you should be aware of, changes. We're going to have Chris Fernando from New York State Education Department talk about some changes I'll be mentioning briefly here on the SAE nomination process, because there's been a change from the paper nomination process now to an online portal they're asking schools to use. There's some other updates they want to provide as well. So I don't want to preempt some of that content that they're going to be covering later this month, but I will be mentioning some of those things along with some of the updates I'm giving today. So definitely sign up for the school counselor newsletter. Another new initiative we just launched as resources for school counselors and college advisors is our FAFSA Ready training program. We just literally announced this a day or two ago. It's basically a new resource hub in the school counselors area on the HESC website, with different modules and training programs that help school counselors with, kind of highlight some of the areas here, utilizing our FAFSA TAP completion initiative reports, step-by-step guidance on FAFSA application submission with walkthroughs and different kind of tutorials to call out different areas to provide support on different topics that come up with FAFSA filing. And also same thing for New York State TAP and DREAM Act application. walkthroughs, tutorials, and some resources to help school counselors be able to help their students apply. So definitely take a look at some of those. It's going to be a growing resource hub. So as we get feedback from the community about the resources that we have and the need for additional resources, we'll be, editing, expanding this as we go along to make it a really great resource hub for our school counselor and college access community to help their students apply for financial aid. So with that being said, let's jump into some of the content I wanted to talk about today with some TAP updates. TAP awards typically range from a minimum of $1,000 to $5,665 per year. That's the new award range that started in the 2024-25, the current school year moving forward. Used to be a 500 minimum, and they increased that to 1,000. Amounts that students actually receive for TAP are contingent on a number of factors, but most namely their dependency status and their income. So just because the maximum TAP award is $5,665 doesn't mean that all your students are entitled to that. It really depends on the exact numbers that are provided on their New York State IT 201, if they or their parents file taxes, and the income that they provide on our application. Income limits were increased last year to $125,000. It used to be $80,000 the limit for families applying for TAP. Now it's $125,000. Again, this is based on New York State taxable income, so it's not the wages someone makes from their job. It's not their federal taxes. It's line 37 of their New York State IT 201. So you may have some families that make $130,000 take-home pay who actually qualify for TAP, because when it all gets whittled down after they file taxes, they're at or under the $125,000 New York State taxable income range. We're going to talk about Excelsior in a few moments. Excelsior still has $125,000 federal AGI limit. So we do have some instances that we've seen where somebody has an AGI above $125,000 and they're not eligible for Excelsior, but because of the deductions and things that you can get on your state return, they are eligible for TAP. So we've seen some families get no Excelsior, but get the $100,000 minimum TAP award for the year because of this difference in AGI versus NTI, where we're talking about Excelsior versus TAP eligibility. Students apply with us. They declare their income on the application. To no surprise, mostly everyone says their income is zero. We put all applications through income verification with the New York State Department of Taxation and Finance. So we will find out exactly what the true income of the family is when after they file, as part of this process that we have to ensure that we're providing the correct award information to our colleges and students as to what they really should be eligible for TAP. Now, a little later, in the spring, when students start getting their financial aid awards, you'll see TAP estimates on there. And if they're going to SUNY and CUNY colleges, usually coinciding with the TAP estimate is going to be a SUNY CUNY tuition credit, or what CUNY continues to, I think, call a TAP waiver. It's basically an additional amount of funding that's provided by New York State to help offset the TAP gap, what we call the TAP gap at SUNY and CUNY. So the promise of TAP is that for those students who are fully eligible for TAP, receive the $5,665, that they should be able to go to SUNY and CUNY tuition free. So what the tuition credit does is it provides them that additional missing funding that's needed to get them from $5,665 to the whatever the exact full-time tuition amount that they're being charged for in-state tuition at a SUNY or CUNY school. If they're not eligible for the maximum TAP award, then the tuition credit is then scaled back in accordance with how much of a TAP benefit the student's receiving. The tuition credit benefit will start being scaled back. So that is something important to note. You won't see this at private schools, but you'll see it at SUNY and CUNY. So we often get questions about, okay, what's this tuition credit or TAP waiver that we're seeing those students receiving? And that's what it's doing. It's helping them offset a higher tuition than the maximum TAP award can cover. Another common question we get from the college advisement community is TAP versus Pell. Why are students who are having 0 or negative SAIs on the FAFSA not eligible to receive the maximum TAP award? And so immediately I always like to remind folks that FAFSA and TAP use different eligibility formulas. The FAFSA uses a more complicated eligibility formula that looks at, state of residence, family size, number of people in college, all these different kind of things that factor into it. Well, I don't think they actually divide income anymore, but there's different factors that go into it. And most namely, FAFSA and Pell eligibility is based on federal income and the different income resources that the FAFSA will ask a student and parent about to make a determination of their income eligibility, with a formula behind that where some people could have negative SAIs. That complex formula does not exist for TAP. TAP is a simple calculation based on New York State taxable income. Usually New York State taxable incomes less than $7,000 qualify for the maximum award. If the family has a New York State taxable income higher than $7,000, then the award is scaled down. So you may have some families that are making $30,000, $40,000, and they may be getting generous Pell Grant estimates from their FAFSA, but they're receiving maybe half of the maximum TAP award. It all has to do with how their taxable income works. We have estimators on our website that students can use to help align their expectations. HESC is not responsible for what colleges estimate for TAP. So some colleges are using their own kind of in-house estimators to try to determine if a student's eligible for a certain amount of TAP when they do packaging. HESC does not, we don't stand by those estimates. They're not our estimates. We provide our actual award amounts when students apply, and those award amounts are then funneled to colleges. So if a college has a more generous estimate of TAP eligibility, and then that conflicts with what we've approved, we will refer the student or parent who's inquiring about that to the college to look at how they came up with that estimate, since it's not in line with what we've actually awarded the student. So that's a common question that we get a lot in the spring when people get their financial aid packages and they find out, college said they were going to get full TAP, and we're saying they're actually going to get a lot less. So in addition to TAP, there are other programs that we offer to help students pay for college in New York State, some of our scholarship and incentive programs. The most common one that folks here who work at high schools may be seeing this time of year is the Scholarship for Academic Excellence, which is a program where students can receive a certain amount of scholarships. It's capped at based on the number of high school seniors you have, to either award a $1,500 or $500 scholarship in recognition of high student achievement. High schools are the ones who nominate students for the scholarship. There's no application process for the student. There's nothing that anyone needs to come to HESC regarding this program. The program is actually administered through the New York State Education Department, SED. And SED used to send nomination packets to schools every fall, and you would send it back sometime in the winter. Now they're sending nomination packets with instructions that nominations need to be submitted online through a new portal called SED Monitoring. They're basically eliminating the paper response process for this to help streamline the submission of nominations. And they've asked schools to make sure that they're aware of this, and we'll be giving some more updates about this later in the month. If you have questions about, I didn't get nominations, how do I do this? What do we need to sign up for? Please direct those questions to the New York State Education Department at the email you see here, scholar@nysed.gov. Again, HESC does not handle the nomination end of this program. So any questions you ask us about this, we're just going to refer you to contact them. They're saying the deadline for submitting your nominations for your graduating seniors is going to be this coming February 28th, 2025. So if you're not aware of this at your school, you haven't started nominating students, and you have a lot of questions, please reach out to SED as soon as possible, because that deadline will come sooner than later. Excelsior is another scholarship opportunity that some of your students might be asking about, giving the benefit of full in-state tuition coverage for students who attend a SUNY or CUNY colleges who have federal AGIs, student or parent combined, up to $125,000 or less. That amount hasn't changed. It could change. Financial aid programs are always subject for renewal and for changes during the New York State budget process, which will begin over the next few weeks. The governor just gave the state of the state yesterday, introduced an initiative for free community college for students aged 25 to 55. So really wouldn't impact, that free community college initiative wouldn't impact high schools unless you are still teaching 25-year-olds. But it would be something that if you're working with adult continuing learning populations that you might have some questions about. Again, state of the state are proposals. We have to wait to see what comes out through legislation and budget, and then we'll provide details to the community as they become available to us, depending on what actually passes the budget process and what passes into law regarding any new initiatives or changes to our programs. The one thing I wanted to call out with the Excelsior Scholarship is that we are currently accepting applications for students starting college this spring semester. The spring semester, for those of you who are at schools or working with students, would be your December grads or students who maybe took a gap year or time off and now want to start college in the spring. It's not intended for your graduating seniors who are graduating in June looking to start college in the fall. The fall application for Excelsior usually opens in May. We'll announce that date as soon as we're able to. So please make sure that your high school seniors who haven't already graduated and are not looking to start college this spring 2025, so we're talking about the semester that starts in the next week or two, they should not be completing the current Excelsior Scholarship application. They should be waiting for the fall 2025 application to open up and applying for that sometime in the spring. Enhanced Tuition Award is a similar benefit to Excelsior, but for private schools. It provides up to $6,000 in tuition assistance for students who are attending participating private schools in New York State. There's a listing of schools on our website. It would be basically a program for those who would have been eligible for Excelsior had they gone to a SUNY or CUNY college, but instead opted to go to a private school. And so they receive a similar sort of dollar value benefit that helps them pay the tuition at their private college. Same thing, this opens up for the fall 25 application. It opens up in the spring, usually in May, and we'll announce that date and the list of participating colleges as soon as we're able to. STEM incentive, we're getting a lot of questions now from high school counselors and college advocate groups about the STEM incentive. So this is a full in-state tuition scholarship for students attending undergrad studies at SUNY and CUNY. It's a merit-based scholarship, meaning it's not based on income like Excelsior with the $125,000. This is really just based on high school ranking. So when students are interested in applying for the scholarship, there's a certain list of conditions regarding what majors they can be in and what careers they need to enter into. There's a give back provision where they have to, live and work in a STEM field for 5 years after they finish college if they receive this program. In order to qualify, we look at high school ranking. For schools that don't rank, we look at GPAs and where it compares with the rest of the senior class. So basically, students apply with us, and when they apply, we provide them with a high school verification form that they would then be submitting to their school counselor to fill in and provide us their ranking information so we can make a determination if they're eligible for this scholarship. So just be aware of that because students may be applying for this now. The application's already open. And they may be bringing these forms in and submitting them to you. You could return the form to the student. They can upload it to us through their application if you don't mind sharing that information with them. If you want to keep it in confidence, school counselors can just email us the form to our scholarships inbox, which is simply scholarships@hesc.ny.gov, and then we'll attach it to the student's application and make our decision. There are also a number of part-time programs that we offer that we've gotten some questions about more recently. Our part-time programs allow students who may not be able to, attend college full-time. Maybe they want to work while going to college, or you're dealing with an adult population who wants to do college, in tandem with their balancing a career. These programs can help students still qualify for some of our programs that would normally require them to be full-time, such as part-time TAP. We also have ADA part-time TAP for disabled students who are unable to carry a full-time course load, Aid for part-time study, and part-time scholarship. Part-time TAP is it's a program that's basically an offshoot of full-time TAP. So when students are looking to receive part-time TAP, they actually just apply for the regular full-time TAP, which we'll talk about the application process for TAP in a moment. And it allows eligible students to be converted from a full-time TAP recipient to a part-time one, as long as they meet the requirements that you're seeing on the screen here. The conversion is done by their college. So simply students apply for full-time TAP, they enroll for college part-time, and then their college will make the determination if they meet these requirements to convert them from a full-time to a part-time TAP recipient. Part-time TAP can be a really beneficial program because it's prorated based on how many credits they're taking. So students need to be in at least 6 to 11 credits to qualify. And if they were in 6 credits, for example, it prorates their full-time TAP award down to 50%. So they can get basically half of what they would have gotten as a full-time student to help them with their half-time 6-credit enrollment. If they're 11 credits, then they can get like almost 93% of what their full-time award value would have been. Again, students just apply for full-time TAP. Their college then converts them. If students feel like they're not being properly screened for this, they can contact their colleges and ask, have you considered me for part-time TAP? Because I'm showing on my CUNY first or whatever that I'm not receiving full-time TAP because I'm not taking enough credits. So there's a lot of flexibility with colleges to convert students to part-time TAP recipients. And this program can be combined with some of the other part-time programs we're going to be talking about in a moment. Similar to the part-time TAP program, ADA part-time TAP is another conversion of a traditional full-time TAP award to a part-time one, but for students who have to be part-time for accommodations under the ADA. So if a student is unable to take a full-time course load, they can be converted by their college to ADA part-time TAP, as long as the student has registered with the accessibility office or the Office of Disabilities at their college to, so the college is aware that they have accommodations under the ADA. The difference with this one and regular part-time TAP is there's no prerequisites about, a GPA or when they had to first start college. And also this can go down to 3 credits. So you can have literally a student taking 1 3-credit class with accommodations under the ADA receiving 25% of whatever their full-time TAP award would have been. So this is, again, something that if you're working with a population of students who have accommodations under the ADA, they should be aware of. They don't have to force themselves to try to go full-time to receive TAP. They could benefit from this program as a part-time student. Aid for Part-Time Study is a different program than part-time TAP. It's a campus-based program where the state gives an allocation of funding to each college in New York State who applies to participate. And the college is allowed to award part-time awards up to $1,000 per term, $2,000 per year for undergraduate students who are taking anywhere from 3 to 11 credits. So at CUNY, usually they have students do what's called the CUNY supplement, and they use the CUNY supplement to see if they're a part-time student, and they screen for this eligibility to see if they can award students APTS. At SUNY and private colleges, students would have to apply separately for this program via campus-based application that they would have usually at the financial aid office. So this would be another benefit that students can look for if they're looking for additional funding. If maybe they're not eligible for part-time TAP, they could be eligible for this. There's different income requirements for this. A lot of adult continuing ed students benefit from this program, but it's just another option that we offer to help assist part-time students with paying for tuition. And then lastly, we have the part-time scholarship, which is exclusive to SUNY and CUNY 2-year community colleges. This is, again, a special scholarship for students who are attending a 2-year community college as a part-time student. They can get up to $1,500 per semester. They apply for this. We do this prioritized based on need. So students who have the greatest amount of need and still have, bills to pay for their college can receive this program. It's applied for during the fall semester. We open up in the fall because we want to see people who are registered part-time. And usually the community colleges will notify their students. When we open this up, we also have a sign up. Students can sign up on our website to get notified for this. But this would be something that could be combined with part-time TAP or APTS, and it gives students an additional amount of funding that can help them cover their part-time enrollment at a 2-year community college. So let's shift gears from talking about programs to talking about the application process and updates
Hey,
that you need to be.
Michael,
Yep, go
before
ahead.
you shift gears, let me pause you.
Sure,
We have a couple of questions, if it's all right.
go for it.
All right, so the first question is from Maggie. She says, can a student who received the SUNY Presidential Scholarship apply for Excelsior?
Yes, anybody can apply for Excelsior. I think the question is whether they'll get Excelsior. So if the presidential scholarship is an award that can be applied to both tuition and cost of attendance, like housing, books, then it will reduce the benefit of Excelsior. So Excelsior is a last dollar program. So pretty much any grant or scholarship that the student can get first that can be applied to tuition is going to reduce Excelsior, including institutional scholarships.
Thank you so much. We have three more questions. For the ETA, is that a separate application from the TAP?
Yes, we're going to talk about the application process for our special programs. Basically, students would go to our website, to our list of scholarships and grants, and they would find the program they're interested in, like ETA or Excelsior, and fill out a supplemental application that would then allow them to apply.
That's right. Thank you. Belinda asks, for part-time ADA TAP, does it have to happen through the financial aid office or the ODS, I guess, Office of Disabled Students or Students with Disabilities? When I've mentioned this to colleges, they're usually unfamiliar with the process.
So it's supposed to be done by the financial aid office, whoever's responsible for TAP certification. So we have a title called the TAP certifying officer. They're trained and they're supposed to be aware of our regulations, which includes awarding ADA TAP. Now, again, students have to have applied for TAP, right? So they have to have done their TAP application, have been approved for a full-time TAP award. This would just be about converting that full-time TAP award to a part-time one as part of their accommodations for ADA having a disability. So it's usually our understanding is that it's a partnership between the financial aid office and the Office of Students with Disabilities, because the financial aid office won't know if a student has accommodations unless they've been registered with that office. So if somebody's saying a financial aid office is denying that this program exists and they're precluding a student from receiving it, then we should be made aware and we could reach out to the school, because it is a violation of the ADA. It's a bigger issue if they're saying they don't know about this and student can't receive it when they look otherwise entitled to. And you're muted, Sandy.
Awesome, of course. Glenda's asking, is there a maximum number of semesters for part-time TAP?
So TAP programs are capped at 4 years of full-time study. They get a 5th year of study if they're in a opportunity program, SEEK, CD, EOP, HEOP. Part-time TAP is a proration of full-time TAP. So they don't get extra semesters. They get a prorated length of time based on how much part-time TAP they're using. So if I was a full-time student who would get TAP for 8 semesters, 4 years of full-time study, but I'm going to do my whole entire college career half-time, 6 credits, then it would be double that, right? I would have 8 years of half-time study, 16 semesters if I go 6 credits every single semester. So it's just basically the length of time that they have to receive to part-time TAP is a proration of what they would have gotten as a full-time student.
Thank you. And finally, from Alondra, students in opportunity programs like HEOP, are they eligible to apply for ETA?
They can, yeah, they're definitely welcome to, anybody's welcome to apply for ETA. Again, ETA, Excelsior are a last dollar, programs. So if a student's receiving generous tuition coverage already from their private school with ETA, because it's a private school program, then ETA might not be offered to that student. Some schools have limited capped participation for ETA recipients because there's a cost sharing requirement between the state and the private college. So of course, anybody's welcome to apply, but they may prioritize it to students who need the benefit and not receiving enough aid. Typically, your HEOP students at private schools are getting a decent amount of aid from the college where they might not need it. But of course, anybody is welcome to apply.
Thanks, Michael. We don't have any more questions right now.
Okay, so I'll push forward through the application process, starting with TAP. Our 25-26 TAP application opened back on December 1st. And so we coincided with what was the public date that FAFSA had announced as when they were going to be opening the form to everyone. FAFSA had, kind of changed, their approach. And then a few weeks before December 1st said, okay, we're opening the FAFSA to everybody. We just couldn't accommodate that randomness of them deciding to change the main opening date to a lot earlier by just saying, oh, we've opened it up to everyone. So we did keep it to December 1st. The TAP application for 25-26, students have a year. They can apply for TAP up until the end of the year of college that they're attending. So if they're attending college for the 25-26 academic year, they have until the end of the 25-26 academic year to apply. So the deadline to apply for TAP for your seniors who are starting college this fall is going to be June 30th of 2026, not this coming June 30th, next June 30th. So please, please, please do not contact us this coming June 30th, begging us for an extension for your students, because we'll let you know that they do have an extension of a whole other year to apply for TAP. So it's quite a generous application period. You can see it's almost a year and a half that they have to apply for TAP. Of course, it's in their best interest to apply as soon as possible, but there is a lot of room for them to, if they missed applying, for whatever reason, or they had application issues, they can always still apply. Even students right now that are in college for 24-25 can complete the application for 24-25. Another thing I want to note that we see students doing is if you have December grads who are looking to start college this spring, the spring 25 semester is part of the current 24-25 school year. So if they're looking to get spring TAP for this coming spring, they should be doing the last year FAFSA application, 24-25, not 25-26. We get a lot of, we see this coming in because we get 25-26 applications and the students only put spring 2026. And we're looking at it like, okay, the student is actually probably really trying to apply for spring 25, but they just did the wrong year. When applying for TAP, there's two different pathways to apply depending on whether the student meets the requirements to be what we call a traditional TAP applicant or needs to apply through the DREAM Act process. And really the dividing line for us is whether or not the student has a citizenship immigration status that precludes them from filing a FAFSA, where they would need to use the special application process that we've designed under the DREAM Act, or whether they meet the requirements for federal student aid and would be able to then utilize the traditional pathway by submitting a FAFSA application and then submitting the TAP application. While the TAP application for the traditional pathway does not require the student to have filed the FAFSA to start the application, it is required to process the application. So students are welcome at any time to go to our website and go to the area where we list our grants and scholarships, find TAP and look to the application and find the link to apply. They create an account, they submit an application. If they have not submitted a FAFSA or their FAFSA has issues or their FAFSA is not processed, that TAP application goes nowhere. So they really need to make sure, and we still strongly advise that students have filed or will be filing and making sure that their FAFSA applications are submitted and fully processed to ensure that their TAP applications that they submit will follow suit. With this pathway, if the student has a citizenship immigration status that is not eligible for federal aid, and we receive a FAFSA where it's coded saying that the student is not eligible for federal aid, we will deny any application that we receive through the traditional pathway where it's been indicated to us that the student does not meet the federal citizenship or eligible non-citizen requirements. So that means that, this pathway really should be exclusively for those students who are U.S. citizens or the class of, permanent residents or other eligible non-citizens who can meet the bar to receive Pell Grants, federal student loans, etc. Students who were approved for asylum are part of that class, but students who are applying for asylum, waiting for a decision, are not part of that class, right? So it's really important that if you're guiding students, okay, which way should we be applying, that you have some familiarity with their immigration status if things are up in the air, so you can try to give them the best guidance, because we do get calls and complaints that a student applied for the traditional application and we're denying it for citizenship noncompliance. So and then we make them have to reapply for everything through the DREAM Act. So having a good idea of which way they should go will really make this process a lot smoother for them. One other thing that will make the process a lot smoother for your students is making sure that when they apply for TAP through the traditional pathway, that they're providing us the correct identifying information. We receive a lot of TAP applications with this new process where students can file TAP pretty much at any time they'd like to, where they're creating what I call bogus accounts that have incorrect socials, incorrect dates of birth. If the HESC account that they create and the TAP application that they submit following the creation of that account have identifying information that does not correspond to what was processed on their FAFSA, we will purge their TAP application. So it means their application is junk. So if the social is off by 1 digit, that's going to invalidate the TAP application. If we don't match it within a month, we dump it. We consider it to be an invalid filing. Date of birth. If the student doesn't know what year or day they were born and they put a different date than what they put on their FAFSA, that again is conflicting information. We hold on to the TAP application for a month. If we don't find a FAFSA that matches, we dump it. So the point here is to really strongly emphasize that when students are creating their accounts, that they don't create accounts haphazardly where they're just quickly typing in their information, not really double checking everything. And then it results in roadblocks for them from receiving their TAP, because we will send emails warning them before we purge their application saying, look, we got this TAP app for you. We don't have a FAFSA. Look at your FAFSA, make sure that has no issues. If FAFSA has no issues, then something else must be going on. So really, the onus is on the applicant to make sure that they're giving us the right information, or else they'll have to reapply. They'll have to fix their account, put the correct information. Sometimes students have to create a new account. Students should not be creating secondary or accounts because they can't log into their original account. We get a lot of that. They use the old email that they can't log into. So some people are just like, oh, just make another account. Once you have an account with a verified social, that account is unique. So in order to make a second HESC account, you have to make one with a fake social. You have to put 1 digit differently. And we get a lot of that. And so, we only say this because this issue has increased, with the new sort of world that we're in where students can file TAP at any time. And so we really want to encourage students to take more care when they're creating their accounts. Parents cannot create an account to apply for their student. That's another phenomenon that we see. We see the parent be the creator of the HESC account, and then when they fill out the TAP application, they put all of their kids' information on it. Here's my kid's name, here's their colleges. So then we end up having an account that's created that fills in the background of that TAP app, and it's all the parents' underlying identity with all the kids' name and all the other information on it that doesn't match the kid's FAFSA. So these things have to just be done with care. Students should be creating their own accounts and using their own accounts to apply. And if they've locked out their account, they can get account assistance from us without making an appointment. In the Get Help area of our website, we have an account assistance form. They just basically fill out a form saying, I need help getting into my account. And then we email them the next day with a reset. So they don't have to wait to make an appointment to get an assistance unlocking their account. The other factors that will prevent their FAFSA from linking up to their TAP application are how they apply within the FAFSA itself, right? They must indicate that they live in New York State, and they must indicate that they are going to at least an eligible college in New York State. We get some students, for whatever purpose, again, not applying carefully, they'll list that they live in New York as their address, and then when it says, well, what's your current state of residence? It slides down to New Jersey, or we see New Mexico. We see a lot of the different N combinations. So if they say that their home address is, New York, but their state of residence is New Mexico, that invalidates their FAFSA from being eligible to apply for TAP, and that will prevent them from matching. So again, taking care to make sure that they're putting the right state of residence on FAFSA, which could be different because it's a drop down from what they put for their address. Colleges. Some students will apply for, you could do 20 online colleges, right? If you put all 20 out of state, you're not going to be able to apply for TAP. You have to have at least one eligible New York college in that list of colleges in order for that FAFSA to be downloadable by us, for lack of a better terminology, for us to then link it up to a TAP application. So commonly we purge TAP apps because we have FAFSAs that do not have one New York college on it. We can't link the two together. Again, some folks are asking us because sometimes they finish the FAFSA, they don't see a link to apply for state aid. It's no longer the old way where as soon as you finish your FAFSA, you carry everything over into TAP and it pre-populates. Those days are now done. The feds say that maybe in the future we'll have that functionality back, but right now we're in the world of anytime TAP. So because FAFSA does not link up to TAP the way it used to provide the pre-fill option, students can simply apply for TAP anytime by going to our website. But again, if they submit a TAP app, we are really waiting to receive that FAFSA in order to then process it. Let's talk about the DREAM Act pathway, which is also available for students to apply. The DREAM Act pathway are for those classes of students who would not typically be eligible to apply for FAFSA because they have a citizenship or immigration status that makes them ineligible for federal student aid. And common examples of that would be students who are undocumented or have DACA status. We consider students to be undocumented even if they have a sort of gray area immigration status. So let's say they've applied for asylum, but they're waiting for a decision, then the DREAM Act would be the pathway that they would apply because they don't have a decided status. That asylum application could go either way, right? They could be approved for asylum down the road. They could be denied and told to report back to country of origin. We don't know. So because they're in a gray area with their immigration status, they could apply through the DREAM Act. DREAM Act pathway for visas are only for T&U visa holders. If someone's here with a lawful visa status, let's say I'm a G visa holder because my parents work for the UN, then I'm not eligible for the DREAM Act because I'm not a undocumented person. I'm not DACA. I'm not T&U visa. So please be careful with visa holders. G visa holders, they're international students. They should really be applying for college as an international student. You have some people here on different sorts of visas that they have an international student status. F visa is the most obvious. F visa means that it's a student visa, so they're just here to study. The DREAM Act pathway is really meant for those who are living, trying to live in the U.S. permanently, applying for valid status, but otherwise do not have that status. So citizenship immigration status is one criteria. The other criteria is educational eligibility. We're looking at students who've graduated or will be graduating from a New York high school after attending 2 or more years. High school equivalency diplomas who've obtained their high school equivalency diploma in New York State, or groups of students who may be qualified for in-state tuition at SUNY or CUNY. Those are the 3 options. If the student doesn't meet any of those 3, then they're not eligible for the DREAM Act. The initial part of the DREAM Act application is an eligibility screening form, and that form is open year-round. So students are welcome to apply for the DREAM Act eligibility at any time. Individual financial aid applications like TAP, Excelsior, ETA, STEM, they all open at the same time that the general population receives those applications. So if you have a DREAM Act applicant who's looking to apply for TAP for 25-26, that's available now. But if they're looking to apply for Excelsior for 25-26, the spring application is open right now, but fall will not be open until May when it's open for everybody else. So STEM can be applied through the DREAM Act because that's currently open, but the part-time scholarship won't be on there until the fall. For students who are looking to apply for any of our incentives and other special scholarship programs, we kind of mentioned this before to answer the question that we received. They have to look at the list of grant and scholarship programs on our website, click on the one that they're interested in, and there'll be links to supplemental application if it's available. If it's not available, there'll be an email sign-up option where the student can sign up for an email reminder when that application opens. And our DREAM Act applicants can look through the list of available programs by simply clicking on the Add New Application button on their DREAM Act portal. So once I've applied for DREAM Act eligibility and I've been approved, I'll have this Add New Application on my homepage that will be active if I'm approved for the DREAM Act eligibility, and that will then enable me to access this list of drop-down programs, and I can apply for all those different financial aid opportunities. So you have to make sure that DREAM Act applicants are taking that second step, right? They have to do that initial eligibility application, be deemed eligible, and then apply for whatever financial aid opportunities they're interested in. The DREAM Act is not an individual scholarship program. The DREAM Act is basically an opportunity for students who are eligible under the DREAM Act to apply for all the various New York State financial aid opportunities that you're seeing on our website. So there's no unique programs for Dreamers. They apply for everything, and it's under the same rules and requirements as everybody else. If DREAM Act applicants come from families that work and make income, then they may not receive maximum awards. We commonly get questions, complaints from advocates who are saying, look, our student applied for TAP through the DREAM Act, they're only getting $1,000. When we look, the family makes $90,000 a year, then they're only going to get $1,000 in TAP. It's under the same eligibility criteria as everybody else. Students should take care when they're applying to properly report their family income, to report their dependency status. We have a lot of students who are dependent students, but for whatever reason, they apply as independent. And then when they get the lower amount for independent students, we get a lot of requests to change them back to dependent. So there's a lot of back and forth. Students should just apply as honestly as possible. If they live with their parents, they're dependent on their parents, they should apply as a dependent, and they could be entitled to a higher award, as opposed to applying as there's an option on there for involuntary dissolution because they're saying their parents don't have a legal status. We'll approve them, but they'll get the 3,500 TAP amount, not the 5,665. So there are some kind of consequences depending on which pathway students apply due to caps on the award maximums that we have for different categories of independent students. Again, we could do a whole hour just on the DREAM Act, and I'm sure there are going to be a number of questions about the DREAM Act. We really want to promote the initiatives that we have on our website, the tutorials and information that we're posting on there. And we did do a DREAM Act walkthrough. We do have that on the FAFSA Ready initiative, so definitely take a look at that if you have more questions and concerns about the DREAM Act. Before I close out on next steps, Sandy, do you have any questions related to application process?
Yes, we do have a couple of questions, but let me insert my own question first. So we did a workshop on Friday for our counselors at New Visions, and somebody mentioned a new possible use case for the DREAM Act TAP. They were saying for a student who filled out the FAFSA and the parent refused to give information, right? And those students even they can apply just for the unsubsidized. Is that a use case for a student to do the DREAM Act TAP application?
It is not, because again, if the student is a U.S. citizen or permanent resident, they would have to present themselves as something other than that to go through the DREAM Act. So it would be under false pretenses. Okay. Parental refusals, it's kind of the toughest area, but for us, if they're really a dependent student, parents need to provide their information in order for them to receive TAP. If they present themselves any differently to sort of kind of wiggle their way through the application and go through as an independent, then, that would just be assisting the student in providing false information. So we don't encourage that.
All right. Thank you so much. Yeah, that to me, it stood out as something that was wrong. Thank you. Okay. Belinda asks, if students are delayed in completing the TAP, do they have to pay their school bill first and get reimbursed? And here's another question from her too. Additionally, is TAP a first come, first served basis? Will students who apply later get less funding?
So I'll answer the second question first. It's not first come, first serve. Students are entitled to receive the amount of TAP that they're eligible for, no matter when they actually apply, as long as they apply within the deadline. So if I have a student in college right now who forgot to apply for TAP for the fall, and they submitted 24-25 TAP application, they're going to get whatever they're eligible for, and it'll be applicable to the fall semester, it'll be applicable to the spring. Which then leads me to the second, to answer the first question about paying their bill. Again, it's really in students' best interest to apply for financial aid as early as possible, so that way their colleges are aware of their eligibility, the information is on their systems, and can be populated on their bill. If you have students who are in college right now who are rushing to submit a TAP application, and we know who they are because they've been calling and emailing us, and literally we see emails like, I just did my TAP application yesterday, my bill is due tomorrow, can you guys help me? We can't. I'm sorry. It takes 3 to 5 days for the TAP application to process. Then it takes a few additional days for that to be reported out to the college. And then it may, even after we've reported it out to the college, it may take a few additional days for somebody there to actually load the information onto their system and get it on the bill. So, we really can't help the latecomer, expedite their situation if they didn't, do what they needed to do a lot earlier on and file their application in a timely manner. And that also includes providing missing information, which what we're going to talk about on the next slides here. To make sure that if we ask for something, that they're checking their emails, checking their TAP status, and providing that to us as soon as possible so we could get them an award amount. We can't really intervene in billing disputes, right? So if a college is saying, we can't see your TAP, it's not on our system yet, you need to pay us, that's between the student and the college. Now, we do give colleges access to our system, and if somebody wants to help the student, maybe go a little above and beyond, a college administrator can log into the HESC portal, see that we've approved them for TAP yesterday, and then maybe as a kindness, waive any late fees or say, look, I know it's coming, we'll just, we'll help you out, we'll remove your holds. But what we find, especially at a lot of the CUNYs or schools that have a lot of students, is that, everybody's asking for that kind of level of help. Schools can only do as much as they can. And so, maybe they will have to pay their bill and be reimbursed at a later date if they only just did their TAP application yesterday. It's really circumstantial.
All right, thank you so much. And finally, last question, Ariola asks, for the DREAM Act tab, if a student graduates June 2025 after attending high school for 1 year and a half, will they be eligible in spring 2026 after one semester in college, or does the 2 years have to happen during high school only?
Yeah, so for the DREAM Act, in order to use that qualifier that I have a New York high school diploma after attending 2 or more years, the 2 or more years has to be in a New York high school, right? So if they only have 1 year of New York high school, 1 year and a half of New York high school, we're going to look at their final transcript. They're not going to meet the eligibility criteria. Again, there are other pathways. Some of those students would go down the in-state tuition pathway if they're going to a SUNY or CUNY school, show us a tuition statement showing that their SUNY or CUNY did give them in-state tuition, and that would be what qualifies them. So I would just say for them to look at the other options to see if they could find something that fits them if they don't meet the 2 years of high school.
Great, thank you. No more questions.
Yep. And unfortunately that comes from the law. So like the law was written to say 2 years. It's not just an arbitrary thing that we've required. So a couple next steps I wanted to bring up and some sort of issues that we get commonly asked about. Dependency status I wanted to start with. When applying for New York State aid, there are different rules than FAFSA as to who qualifies for being independent. And there's also a little bit of a nuance in the application process in order to request to be considered to be independent. So what we do is we look at an age criteria. If a student's applying with us, an adult student, and they're older than 36, we're going to make them independent no matter how they present themselves on the application. The age of independence for federal student aid is 24. So if I'm 24, 25 years old and I'm filling out a FAFSA, I'm assumed independent throughout the process. So for us, students that are younger than 36 have to go through a screening criteria to determine if they're considered to be financially independent from their parents. And there's a set of questions that make that determination. So we call these the financial independence status questions, and we're asking the student, have you been living with your parents? Will you be living with your parents? Were you claimed on their tax return as a dependent? Are you receiving financial assistance from your parents? And so if a student is in a situation where they have a special circumstance and want to claim independence, they would have to answer these questions as no. So let's say I'm living with my grandmother and my grandmother is my court-appointed legal guardian, I would need to answer these as no, because these questions are asking about my parents, not my grandparent who's my legal guardian. So it's a common mistake we get when students are trying to apply as an independent student. They will answer some or all of these questions as yes, which then will preclude them and put them down the pathway where they need to provide parent information. So again, if we're working with a student with a special circumstance who needs to try to apply as an independent student, you should answer no to these questions all down the line. And when answering no to these questions down the line, a second page comes up, which will then ask the student, depending on their age, if they're younger than 22, so you're 17, 18, 19-year-olds, it's going to say, what's your special condition? So this is where your special circumstances kick in for you to say, okay, the student is claiming that they're independent on their own because of X. So you're going to check off whichever one of these applies to the student. They're in foster care, they're a ward of the court. A lot of people check off that last option for involuntary dissolution of family. So that option would be the final one, and that would be all the sort of gray area circumstances where students would say, oh, my mother died and I don't have any relationship with my father, or, all these kind of things that you might be hearing at the school level could be all just kind of lumped into that last area. It is important, though, that students put themselves in the right category because we do offer higher awards to foster youth, ward of the court, and orphans. And anybody else who has like legal custody or some other kind of situation that doesn't meet that criteria would get a lower award amount. And that's just how the law is written. When students make a claim of independence on the TAP app, they'll see this screen saying that we're going to let them go through without answering parent questions, and they'll subsequently be required to provide documentation that will support their claim as being an independent student. So this will come up as back-end processing. So what'll happen is once we process the student's application, they'll receive an email from us saying that we're missing information, and it'll ask the student to upload documentation that supports whatever special circumstances that they have for being an independent student. So it's at this point where they would upload to us a copy of any court papers, school letters, and whatever letters they have that back their circumstances. So this would be the second piece that we would need to confirm their special circumstance and then allow them to continue through the process as being independent. So just keep that in mind, that if we never follow up on this part, we submit the TAP app, we request independence, they're going to show up as incomplete on your reports, and they're going to be missing information with us, and this might be something that precludes them from receiving TAP in a timely manner. So just make sure if you're working with independent students that you have some follow-up with them. Did you upload your documents to HESC? We always say with uploads, they should wait a few days before uploading documents for us to update their status that they've applied. They can't just instantly upload documents the moment after hitting the submit button on the TAP application. Another question we get are regarding income adjustments. There's some people whose 2023 tax information is not reflective of what their current financial situation is. In those cases, there are certain circumstances which we can adjust income, and there are other circumstances that we do not work with. So we're typically limited to helping families adjust income to be more TAP eligible if there's, or it applies to Excelsior as well, if there's been a divorce or separation of parents, so the parents had filed jointly and they're now recently divorced or legally separated. If a wage earning parent has passed away, obviously, then we want to make sure that we're counting the wages only of the surviving parent. And if one or both of the parents have become totally or permanently disabled, they can no longer gainfully be employed, then that's another situation where we can help adjust income from when they were working to make them more TAP eligible. We do not adjust for other circumstances. I lost a job, I received unemployment benefits, I changed jobs, I recently retired. We do not work with any of those circumstances. In those cases, the income was what it was on the 2023 tax returns, and we go by that. And then maybe in future years, when future tax filings reflect eligible income, they can reapply and maybe receive an award. Our system is designed to trigger a request for documentation if it's indicated to us that there's been a recent one of these circumstances. So students should make sure that, if their parents are split up, that they're providing the right month and year of when that happened. We have a lot of people who guess that month and year. And if they guess a very old date, I literally see TAP applications where students say their parents have been separated or divorced since the 90s, and the student was born in 2005. So how were they even conceived when their parents have not been together for 15 years before they were even born? But we see my favorite one is when they say their parent has been dead for the last 15 years before they were born. Because then I'm like, okay, did you freeze sperm and eggs, and that's how you were conceived? So we do see a lot of guessing on those dates that come up on there. Signatures. Signatures are a popular topic that comes up with this community regarding signatures for electronic submission and for paper. E-signatures can only be provided if it's through a DMV credential, a license, driver's license, non-driver's license, or permit. And if a person doesn't have that, one of the parents you're sitting with does not have a New York State issued license, permit, or non-driver's license ID, then they should just automatically bypass the e-sign. They should not attempt to e-sign. They should just go right to paper. They go to paper, a pop-up window comes up and they could print off a PDF that they could be signed and it could be uploaded to us at a later date. If they attempt the e-signature validation and they have the DMV credential, then they should try to match it up. There are a lot of things behind the scenes. DMV, we're not the DMV. So sometimes when people enter this and it doesn't work, we don't know why, because it's tying to the DMV system. Maybe somebody didn't key in the parent social right when they did their driver's license application. Maybe we have an undocumented parent who received a license under the green light law, but didn't give their social or tax ID when they applied for their driver's license. We don't know. We don't troubleshoot this any further than saying if it doesn't work for e-signing, good old paper is always available. So while we know that folks really want to e-sign and expedite this, if they're unable to e-sign, then paper is available, and paper would be what they'd have to use. When they get this, there's instructions to upload it. They can upload it, and if they upload it to the right area, we're going to talk about uploads next, it'll match up and it'll be processed fairly quickly. We do have some people that upload. I've been doing a lot of audits on uploads lately because we get a lot of complaints about it this time of year. People saying, oh, my student has uploaded this 6 times and it's never been processed. And I looked and I find the uploads, and like people literally upload a blank signature page like this because they think that, look, oh, my parent doesn't have to sign, it's a computer. All I got to do is just print the page, upload it back to them, and they'll say, yeah, we got it, and it'll be completed. No, we do look at the signatures. So if it's not actually signed, we're going to reject it. So one of those cases where they said, oh, the student submitted it 6 times, we did get 6 unsigned parent signature pages, which is why we never moved their TAP application forward. So they do need to be signed. When e-signing, people try to e-sign this using Adobe. If it looks bootleg, we're not going to accept it. So we can see these, we get these, and you can see that like it has like the edits of when they submitted it online, and we can see the student was the one who wrote the parent's name. That's not an e-signature for us. Like if there's anything that shows that somebody else typed in the parent's name and there's artifacts on the document that show that, it's not going to be a valid document. It is a legal document. There is a disclosure on there about share of information and validity of information being provided. So it's not just an arbitrary document that could be dismissed like, oh, why do we need the signature page? It is something important that should be signed properly and submitted back to us via uploads. So students can access their accounts anytime to follow up and provide us missing information like signature pages by going into their HESC account anytime at hesc.ny.gov. In the top right corner, there's a student account access button. And here they can perform all sorts of different tasks, from updating their college, changing the name of their college, providing missing information, checking how much they've been awarded. It's all done through their HESC account. So initially, when students log in to review their TAP status, they'll be presented, their award. They'll see if they've been awarded, what the college is. If they need to do maintenance on it, they need to look into a missing information status or make changes, they can click into the details area of their TAP status, and then there'll be any messages and links to make corrections. When making corrections, if there's missing documentation, like we're missing a signature page and somebody didn't print it the first time, now they need to reprint it. Again, within the corrections area, there will be links to where to get the signature page again, or a residency questionnaire, or whatever it is that we're asking for. Those documents will be provided in the corrections area of the account. So we really do want to make sure that, before folks are looking to call us and contact us, that they've actually logged into their account to see if they could do some self-service so they can maintain this. It is something important to have students learn, because while it's really easy for a high school counselor to make a call on behalf of a student to fix an issue, are you going to do that for all 4 years while they're in college? They have to reapply for TAP every year. So unless you plan on calling us every year for them moving forward, they really should learn how to maintain this and check their status themselves. When they use the document upload system, again, it's really important that they categorize what they're sending to us correctly because they go into different buckets. We literally have students that will submit everything as signature page. They'll give us their parent signature pages, proof of citizenship, residency documents, and they'll just all upload it as a signature page. If we get a wrong type of document, it gets rejected. So they need to make sure that they're submitting the proper documents in the proper categories. And then they'll have a upload history that'll show the different categories of documents and when they were submitted with a date and timestamp. So that way we can track receipt. If you are mailing all of your students' signature pages on behalf of them, let's say you collect 20 of them, you put them in an envelope and you mail them, please use tracking because HESC is not responsible for lost mail and we cannot ensure delivery of your mail. So if you give us a tracking number, we could track to see if we received it to know that we got all those signature page. Otherwise, we really can't help you track down mail that there's no way of us for tracking down that we received it. Lastly, just make sure that students are updating their college information in and around the time when they are doing their college decisions, because perhaps the college they're deciding to attend is not the college they initially applied for on their TAP app, right? In this case, the student switching from Dream School Columbia to Hunter College. So, that's something that they may need to do at some point, again, to help make sure that we get these awards reported to the right college and that, those awards show up during billing season, which typically happens in late spring, early summer. So that's what I have prepared for you today, Sandy. Please feel free to ask any questions we might have in the remaining few minutes.
Thank you so much, Mike. I'm gonna put, as people think about their questions, because there's none in the chat, I'm gonna put up a little poll, just so folks can do a quick evaluation of our session. But please, if you have any questions, unmute yourself and go ahead and ask. Raymond's letting us know that this was super informative as always. Of course, of course. That was great. That was very useful.
I have a really quick question.
Yeah, Kate.
Just to clarify, so if a student, I guess the dependency questions, since they're not exactly the same as they are in FAFSA, it can be a little confusing for students. If they are in legal guardianship, which box are they checking off?
So they can use word of the court for that one, but only if the court documents say legal guardianship. We get a lot of people who make a claim of legal guardianship and we see orders of custody, temporary custody, shared custody with the parent. Custody is really easy to get, whereas guardianship is a harder requirement. So the higher award goes to guardianship. Custody with parental involvement will get a lower award. So you really need to look at the court docs. If they have custody, it would be an involuntary dissolution. If they have legal guardianship, they can click the foster care ward of the court orphan option.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Kate. Please do fill out this poll. It helps us report back to our funders about these sessions. Toria's thanking for the information, of course. And Michael, you guys have a new website too right now. That's the other thing, right? Or it's not new, is it?
Well, yeah, we redesigned it not too long ago, but yeah, the whole thing has been redesigned to help streamline where to find information. I think really how they present the different grant programs kind of in that list makes it easier to find the different applications that we have. But if anybody does have any feedback, please feel free to let us know if there's something you can't find. I know some folks on this call have been doing this for a while, and you may have links saved that may no longer be valid because when they redid the website, some of those links are now leading to dead pages. So if you have provided links to our website in the past, not the regular HESC.ny.gov, obviously, but if you have guidance that you've put out over the years that you're reusing and you copy pasted a link from our page where to get info, let's say on Excelsior, just make sure you've double checked those links to make sure they're still active and valid links. You may have to update any of those things that you have like on your college advisement webpage or handouts that you give to students every year.
Yeah, that's a good tip. We actually have two more questions if you have a moment.
Yeah, it's fine.
All right. How long does it typically take after submission for a student's DREAM Act application to be approved or denied?
Yeah, we get this question quite a bit. It actually varies. We really can't say, if they're a student who's already graduated from high school, has their final transcript, uploads that upon the time that they apply, should only be about a week or two. If they're a student who hasn't yet graduated from high school, is opting for SED verification of their enrollment and future graduation, then it may take longer. They may not match. It may get rejected. So it really varies depending on what information the applicant is presenting and where they are in terms of eligibility for us to really make a final determination.
Great. And final question. Can students still apply for any part-time or ETA scholarships even if their school is not participating?
So ETA, the Enhanced Tuition Award specifically, is a participation requirement program, meaning that the private college has to be actively participating in that program for the student to be able to apply. And so when the student tries to apply for ETA, they'll only be presented a list of schools that are currently participating. And the drop-down list, whether they're going through the DREAM Act or the HESC website to apply, would only include the list of schools that are eligible. If their school is not in that list, then they shouldn't be applying unless they plan on going to one of those other schools.
Great. Great. Thank you so much. This was
Thank you.
great. I learned a ton, and I've been doing this for a while. We've been talking for a long time. I really appreciate your partnership and your support, Michael. Have a great day.
Thank you.